Hello, we are back again with a story of a saint. This one's St. Patrick, right? March 17th is his feast day, and a lot of people celebrate that day. And a lot of really unusual ways too, I might add. But I think we should learn more about the saint who started it all. Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland, and he has a very fascinating story. A lot of it's now folklore and legend, and it's kind of hard to tell what's the truth and what isn't. But this is an interesting story and account of it. It's taken from the Story of a Saint book that we've done a couple stories from so far now, and I really like it, and I wanted to share with you the story of St. Patrick. St. Patrick was born in about 387, and he's been famous pretty much ever since. Patrick was just a teenager when he was captured by pirates. They threw him on a boat and they sailed with him from his home in Scotland to the island of Ireland, where they sold him to an Irish king, who sent Patrick out into the fields to herd his sheep. Back in Scotland, Patrick had never thought much about God, but he had to live in slavery and in a strange land, far from home, with nobody to talk to. He started to pray. He prayed to God all day and all night, in the woods and on the mountains. And one day, when he had been herding the king's sheep for several years, he had a dream. "You'll go home soon," a voice told him. "Your ship is ready." Now, Patrick was more than 100 miles from any ocean. He didn't have any money. But that night, he slipped away, and he set out across a country he didn't know, looking for a boat that he had never seen before. Days later, he reached the coast, and there was that ship, just as the voice in the dream had promised. Not only that, the boat was from Scotland, freshly loaded up with cargo, and ready to set sail to return. When Patrick begged the captain to take him home, at first, he was refused. As Patrick turned away, he prayed to God for help. "Come back," the sailors from the ship called out as soon as his prayer finished. "The captain has changed his mind." When Patrick got home, his family was overjoyed to see him. But not long after that, he had another dream, and in it, a man from Ireland came to him carrying a bundle of letters. He handed one to Patrick, and when he opened it, he could hear the voices of people in Ireland calling out together, "Patrick, please come back." So Patrick knew what he had to do. He needed to teach the Irish people about God and Jesus. So he studied for several years, first to become a priest and then a bishop, and as soon as he got permission from the church, he headed back to Ireland, where he preached to everyone he met, poor people and rich people, chiefs and the sons of kings. What was interesting is that before he got back to Ireland, he didn't know if he was really up for the task. He was feeling a little nervous about this assignment that he had given himself. He knew it was from God and he had something to do, but he didn't know how he would do it. But as soon as he got there and started carrying out this mission to teach the people, he got all the strength he needed. So the first Easter after Patrick arrived in Ireland, he decided to light a fire on Easter morning on a hill near the castle of the High King. This day was also a pagan feast, and the king had given strict orders that nobody could light a fire until he lit one in his own castle. So when the king woke up and saw Patrick's fire up on the hill, celebrating Jesus rising from the dead, he was understandably furious. He sentenced Patrick to death. He rode out with his queen and his sorcerers and his noblemen to capture him. But when they arrived, Patrick prayed and a great darkness descended on everyone, and Patrick and his followers escaped. Something really neat happens next. The next day, at the height of the king's feast, Patrick and his followers appeared in the great hall, even though all the doors were locked and shut One of the sorcerers welcomed him, giving him a cup of poisoned wine. Patrick blessed the cup, and all the wine froze solid. The poison was just sloshing around on the top. Patrick turned the cup over and poured it out. Not to be outdone, the sorcerer challenged Patrick to a contest of magic. "Let's have a hut built of wood," he said. "We'll set it on fire. We'll stand inside, and we'll see which one of us can withstand the flames." But the sorcerer had a trick up his sleeve. When the hut was built, he ordered the builders to make half of it using green wood, which almost never burns, and the other half using dry wood, which catches fire at the tiniest spark. The plan was for him to stand on the green side, which he believed wouldn't burn, while Patrick burned up on the dry side. As everyone at the feast watched, the sorcerer took his spot on the green side. Patrick's student Bignanus stood on the side made of dry wood. Now, Bignanus was a disciple of Patrick, one of his very most favorite students. He was also a psalm singer, and he goes on to become a saint. So I kind of gave the ending away. He's not the one that died. A servant of the king plunged a burning torch into the house to light it. And when the house began to burn, the green side burst into such hot flame that the sorcerer was turned to cinders. And when the whole house had burned down to nothing more than ash, there stood Patrick's student without a burn or a scratch on him. So for the next 40 years, Patrick lived in Ireland. He founded churches and monasteries. He ministered and he baptized thousands of people, teaching them about Jesus Christ. He taught people to do what was right, not to just obey whoever was strongest. He spoke out against slavery. He refused gifts from royalty, but he gave away any money he had to both poor people and to kings. And he loved to use the Irish shamrock with its 3 leaves as a visual to explain the Trinity. And when Patrick died, legend has it there was no night for 12 days. And for the whole year after his death, the night was not as dark as it had been. There's an Irish blessing. It goes like this: "May the Lord keep you in his hand and never close his fist too tight. And may St. Patrick guard you wherever you may go and guide you in whatever you do. And may his loving protection be a blessing to you always." Because wherever Patrick went, he asked God to be with him. And he believed he would find God there. And he wrote about it in his prayer. Please pray with me. Christ, be within me. Christ behind me. Christ before me. Christ beside me. Christ to win me. Christ to comfort and restore me. Christ beneath me. Christ above me. Christ in quiet. Christ in danger. Christ in the hearts of all that know me. Christ in the mouth of friend and stranger. I hope you've learned something fun about this really great saint of God. And remember to always call on God to be with you wherever you may go. And just keep doing what you know is right. And you'll find that you'll be blessed, just like Patrick was.